So without further ado, I will introduce our speaker today, Masood Akhtar. Welcome, Masood. He has a very impressive bio, so I'll just give you some of the highlights. He is an Indian-born, proud American Muslim entrepreneur and activist. Mr. Akhtar has been living in Madison for over 30 years and actively involved with numerous community projects to address the environment of hate, bigotry, and racism. Akhtar started a statewide nonpartisan movement called We Are Many United Against Hate, where people who are urban and rural, spiritual and secular can unite together to build an inclusive community. Some of the awards that he's received, in 2019 received a certificate of achievement from Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers that states all Wisconsinites should be inspired by Masood's work and strive to unite together regardless of differences and seek to build a state and a country that is united against hate, bigotry, and racism. So there are many other awards and accolades that he has received. He recently, I know a couple of you saw it because other people emailed me too, but did an opinion piece in the State Journal that published over the weekend. So without further ado, Masood, thanks for speaking with us today.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, Aaron, for inviting me, and thank you all for joining. And as you know, actually, I spoke to your group, if I remember, sometimes in January, early this year. So some of you might have heard my story, personal story. Some of you might not. So what I will try to do, if it's okay with everybody, is just to give you an overview about my background and why I started this movement, where we are at. And since January of this year, when I spoke to you last time, what advancements have been made. We can talk about that. And then we can talk about moving forward and see if there is a potential for us to work together in some of these areas, because I always want to end up with something that will lead into something, not just a talk. And so with that in mind, and I know I have half an hour total, so I will try to wrap this thing up, at least my presentation part, the first 20 minutes or so. And then I will leave enough time, if it's okay, for Q&A. And if there are questions after that, you guys can always send me that, and I'll be happy to answer those questions. So anyway, the topic today really is overpowering hate through education and engagement. So as Aaron mentioned that, you know, I'm originally from India, and came to this country about 35 years ago. I've been living in Madison for over 30, and my background is business. The other thing that you're going to hear is my passion for community service as well. So, you know, being a Muslim in this country, particularly after 9/11, has been very, very challenging. You know, we have about 40 to 50,000 people in Wisconsin, Muslim community, about 3.5 million in America, and 25% of the world population actually is Muslim, so it's a very large number. Even in the United States, the number is going to increase substantially by 2050. It's going to go to like 8.9 million. So we are pretty active in the community. But after, you know, since 9/11, obviously, as you can imagine, things change in this country. And so what I have been doing with my community is really educating people about what Islam is, what Muslims are, and we are not different than anybody else. Because of the fear that people who see certain things on television believe that maybe all Muslims are terrorists, so we need to stay away from these people. And we wanted to change the perception. And we strongly believe that the reason they do it, not because these people hate us, but simply because these people have misunderstanding about so many things. And some of these people see certain things on television, and then they actually react to that. So I have been very active in this community since 9/11, organizing many events, such as, clearing misconceptions about Islam, Muslim, the West, ISIS, our common enemy, or demystifying Islam and terrorism, and all of those things that I have been doing to show that we're just like you. And written many articles in the news about, diversity, how diverse the Muslim community is. And, we are just like you, as I mentioned, working in the military, dying for this country. We are professors, scientists, and you name it. So those are the kinds of things that we have been doing. And back in 2015, this presidential election, things changed, and we got very worried about what we were hearing. And so most of my time really as volunteer I was getting so many phone calls from TV stations, local media about, hey, there is a discussion about this, that if Donald Trump get elected, he's going to go into your mosque, he's going to do profiling, what's your reaction to that? What's your community reaction to that? And that was quite painful experience to go through that. So that's where I spent a lot of time, simply defending my religion, my community, and explaining people of what we have been doing in this country. And then in 2016, when I received a phone call from TV station saying that, hey, things have gone too far into this. Now there is a discussion in the White House about starting a Muslim registry. And what's your reaction to that? And that was the saddest day of my life in this country, because I never, thought that the kinds of things that I do as a business person, the kind of thing that I do for the community, I will ever be asked that kind of question, because I know what happened to Jewish community decades ago, starting a Jewish registry type of thing. So it was very painful, but I went there and talked about it, not knowing how I'm going to react to that, but I showed up on television. And the question was asked, and I explained everything. I said, look, I came to this country 35 years ago and gave up my Indian citizenship 25 years ago based on what this country offers: freedom of speech, freedom to practice my religion, and fulfill your dream. And singling out a minority based on religion is not what America is all about. But I like the idea of starting a registry that will actually bring people together. So today on your show, I said I'm going to announce a movement called Anti-Hate Registry, which we now call We Are Many, United Against Hate. And my fear was at that time that over the next 4 years, it's not going to be just the White House and the Muslim community. The way I was looking at and the way I was seeing, it was going to be a White House and the Muslim community, and White House and the Jewish community, and White House and African American community, Hispanic community. That's the way I was thinking. Now, I was not prepared to announce anything. I just went there, but it just, as I was listening to this anchor who was asking me questions, it just thought came to my mind that this is the time I need to speak up or do something about it. So it just came out. That surprised the host, and that surprised me as well. But that's how this whole movement actually started. And the response was just overwhelming. And I'm sitting in the office, and one day I just got 500 emails from the community who saw me on television saying, I want to sign up. I want to join it. And there's another group of people that say, not only I'm going to join it, but I have some IT experience. I'm going to set up your website. One teacher said, I just retired. I'm going to take minutes of your meeting. Social media, it was just a kind of overwhelming response that I got. So the first thing I did as a part of this movement, I set up an advisory board statewide with key leaders from each of these communities, particularly minority community, Hispanic community, Jewish community, African American, Native American, you name it, they're all on my advisory board. And even the elected officials of both parties, because this is a non-partisan group. And so it took several months to do that, but I was able to do that. And then we started focusing actually in two areas. Quite often people ask me question why the movement changed name from, anti-hate registry to We Are Many United Against Hate. In my first advisory board meeting, we had two representatives from the Jewish community, and they were uncomfortable with that word registry because it reminded them what happened in the past. So as a board, we made a decision we need to come up with something different. And that's how we all came up with We Are Many United Against Hate. So with that, we focus heavily on education because, based on my Muslim experience, whenever I had conversations with non-Muslims sitting down one-on-one on a group, then we explain certain things, people get on board. So the fear was that a lot of people were reacting out of this fear and hate environment that was created. So I strongly believe in this, that engagement is going to be very critical. And through engagement, you're going to do the education part. So my 90% of the effort has been education. We also work in some non-partisan policy areas that I will briefly talk about it. And so as part of education, I also learned that, the most important thing that really resonated with the community, and particularly I wanted to empower youth, is basically real life stories. That something happened in somebody's life, and if their life changed, those are the people that I have been targeting. So as I mentioned to you earlier, when I was there in January, Sikh temple shooting, right? The shooter, the person, white supremacist who started the largest hate group, and the person whose dad was killed. Both of those are on my advisory board. It's a very powerful story of somebody who was on a mission of killing people. And finally, the way minorities were reacting to him, and then they got together and he started something very positive. So Arno and Pardeep, for example, they're part of my team. We always take them to schools, colleges, campus, and everything. And they shared their story about what changed their lives and how they're working together to build an inclusive community. There is another story when it comes to particularly Muslim, who's also one of my panelists, a Muslim father in Kentucky whose 21-year son was killed simply because he was a Muslim. They went to the court at the last day of the judgment. Father stands up and tells this killer and hug him and said, Islam teaches forgiveness. You made a mistake, I'm forgiving you because of my religion. He's also on my list of panelists. When it comes to specifically demystifying Islam Muslim, I always ask him to go. There was a high school case that you might know here at Oshkosh High School last year, where there was a school shooting. One 19-year-old Muslim girl came out of the school right from the mosque right there and grabbed all of those kids and actually locked them up inside the mosque and saved them. And Tony Evers actually, as a part of his State of the State address, recognized her and her family that what the Muslim community has been doing. So these are just few examples. I have another panelist right here in Fort Atkinson, literally. White nationalist, as white nationalist as you would get. And I sat down with him, I took my TV camera crew there, asked him what changed his life. And he said, I hated everybody in my life. But then I was on a military mission. And my unit was completely ambushed. And the person who really saved my life was an African American. And that was a turning point in his life. So I'm always focusing on these kinds of stories and actually bring it to public attention. And that resonates with a lot of those things. So as a part of that, what we have done so far, the impact has been huge. You already mentioned so many of these recognitions, both locally and also nationally. So with that, what we have done since January, we have organized a number of events, but on the governance side, we have done so many things. For example, I started out, as I said, a statewide advisory board. And now, because of what's happening nationally with the rise in white nationalism and white supremacists and neo-Nazis, I have added 2 subject matter experts. One is a subject matter expert from Stanford, Professor Brian, who is very well respected nationally. He specializes in hate crimes. He has testified many times. He has always been on television nationally talking about it. The other person is a person who actually worked at the Homeland Security before, actually, just like 10 years ago, I would say, roughly speaking. He was working there. He was assigned to look at terrorism when President Obama was elected in terms of what's going to happen. And then he left after that, writing the report, came back. So his subject matter expertise is in domestic terrorism, and he lives in Washington, D.C. So I have added both of them to my advisory board, and actually call it honorary board. These people are available to speak when it comes to that. In fact, I just organized about a couple of weeks ago a national webinar that was moderated by Channel 15 with all of these people, and I got a hate crime victim from Wisconsin, and then I have this other person, Derek, a white nationalist, as a part of that. Again, the real life stories combined with the challenges that this country is going through. So we're doing that. All are volunteer in my organization. I am more than full-time basically working on this because there's a request of organizing some chapters of We Are Many United Against Hate. So that's taking a lot of my time. I just hired a part-time assistant to actually help me with some of these things because it was just a lot of that is stuff that was going on here. And I can also give you an example. In terms of educational piece, we simply don't go to schools and MITC colleges and campuses to organize these events. My focus is action. So when we go there, we organize that as phase 1. And then what we do is we sit down with them, the school, the community, the law enforcement, everybody, and say, okay, how are we going to work together to actually understand if there is a hate in this community, what is causing it, and what really needs to be done. So we actually become very action-oriented. And that's one of the things, if you remember what happened at Baraboo High School, Nazi salute. Since then, day one, I have been working with them very closely, organizing events, working with them. This is the first time in their history they came up with a 3-year strategic plan that has the word equity. And we also created a teamwork called Baraboo Act Coalition that has about 17 people, diverse group, school administrators, all those things. And we developed some very good strategies. Recently, we came up with some educational program for K-12 that was funded by the Department of Public Instruction. We posted the website. But all of these schools where we are developing best practices to deal with hate, actually now they're coming out as a part of my panelists and sharing their experience with things. So right now, my focus is to continue on this path. There's a lot of requests to start chapters of We Are Many United Against Hate, not only in Wisconsin, but in other states, and also 4 or 5 other countries that reach out to me based on what they were seeing. So what I'm going to do is moving forward is putting a little bit more structure because of the need. Right now, I'm reaching out to people that I know. I'm looking for somebody who can work with me as a vice president, looking for adding maybe a few more people on the board of directors. So if you guys know some of those that you think might fit, I'll be happy to talk with them. Then we have to go and raise money because we have to hire people. You cannot run a successful organization the way this organization is growing without having sufficient funds. So we got to do that. That's why I'm working on it right now. So the other thing that I want to mention very briefly is that a lot of people ask me a question about, how do you get this kind of time actually to continue in this path of 16 to 17 hours a day? And And my answer to them is I really believe in this country. That's the reason I came here 35 years ago. I really love what this country stands for, and I will do whatever I can as a part of it. I always tell people that, there are a few things that I always remind people when this question was asked about my love for this country. Number one, I strongly believe in our US Constitution because that provides balances and checks and all these things that I believe in it. And this is something that is so critical that I always, every single time, think about the equality and justice for all. And that's what I believe, that although we are going through this unprecedented time right now, but I believe that we can make things happen if we all work together. The other thing is the community. I can tell you, if there is any terrorist attack at a mosque or anything, unbelievable response that I get from the community. We get letters, people drop off stuff, they stop by at mosque and all sorts of things. It just tells you the best of the best in this particular country that I see, that I didn't see when I was back in India or some other places as well. I can give you another quick example of people. Typically, when I get an award, nobody knows until I get a call from the media or other people. So when I received this national FBI award last year, I was in a business meeting in Watson. And this former president, CEO of a company, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I heard you are in Watson. Can you come and have dinner with us tonight?" I said, "Okay." I went there and had dinner and talked about business and everything like that. And just about 3 hours I was leaving, his wife said, "Hey, Masood, do you have a couple more minutes? I have some important topic to talk to you about." I said, "Sure, do that." And she said, "I heard that you're the only one from Wisconsin who received this prestigious national FBI award, that you would be going to Washington, D.C. and receive this award from FBI Director Christopher Wray." I said, "Yes." So she said, "Congratulations." I said, "Thanks." And she said, "This is a proud moment." And these are white people. And here I am, not white, Muslim person, never met these guys before. I knew them, but never met. And I was doing that and said, it will be my great honor if my husband and I can go to Washington, D.C., the FBI headquarters, sit in the audience, watch you receive the award. And I can tell you, I almost cried there. And they did. They went to Washington, D.C. with my whole family of 5. There was an FBI person assigned from Wisconsin to go with me, and we were there. And I can tell you that just when I walked into the room, there was a standing ovation. And when I turned left, my family was sitting and this family was sitting. And I cried. That's what I believe in. And I think that's where the community is. And that's where I think we can all work together to make sure that, this country remains united. I'm very worried about. Many years ago, when I was talking about the election cycle, let me read you a quote that was published in, this is December 30th, 2015, the Year in Course by Wisconsin State Journal. And there are so many, 15 of them, but I will read you what I felt at that time in 2015. And they quoted me here. "Despite all of these things that have happened the last few months, I still believe America is the best country for Muslims to practice their religion and accomplish their goals I am a proud American Muslim. Masood Akhtar of Middleton addressing a statement about Islam by Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and others. That's what I believe. If you ask me the same question today, I'm going to pause for a second because things have changed so much in the last 3.5 years. And we all need to recognize that there is an issue and there are some challenges ahead of us. But I strongly believe that together we can continue our effort. And I'm pretty sure that at the end of the day, this country will remain united and we will still call this country as United States of America, not white America, not brown America, not black America. And I'm confident that together we can do that. But we're going to need everybody's support to do that. So let me leave you with this. There are a few things I will mention that I have seen based on my own experience. We have to be proactive. That is critical. And number two, we have to be very strategic in terms of what we do and how we do that. And also we have to be non-partisan. And lastly, we need to act. Because if we don't, then the consequences could be pretty severe. So I will leave you with some few things here that moving forward, just think about those 4 things. There are some opportunities, maybe between We Are Many United Against Hate and the Rotary Club South, that we can identify, you can identify certain areas that we can work together. Right now, I'm in the process of actually creating a youth or students ambassador board where I'm asking each of these high schools to give me 2 to 3 students, MATC and also UW system. And I just started that process. I have 3, but many schools I talked with, they're interested and they're very interested. And I want to empower them. I want to engage them and I want them to work with us as a part of this exercise. So I want you to think about some of those things. And again, I just want to make sure that you know that I'm here, support is here, and we can all work together. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all again. So thank you so much, and I will take a few questions and go from there.